So every real Star Wars fan in the world was extremely excited when Kathleen Kennedy came out at the Disney Investor event and pretty much just straight up announced that the Filoniverse was happening. She announced all these shows that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni would be working on. She announced Ahsoka, Rangers of the New Republic, Mando Season 3, and the list goes on and on. But now it seems like she's not only pushing the High Republic more than the Filoniverse, it seems like she actually wants to get rid of the Filoniverse, or at least take away power from Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Let's get into it. We all already know that Gina Carano being fired from Star Wars is going to cause a lot of problems in the Filoniverse. Not only is this going to cause huge problems with the Mandalorian Season 3, but it's also going to cause them to rewrite the entire Rangers of the New Republic show. If they even want to do that, I wouldn't be surprised if they just scrap the show altogether. Because if we're being honest, most of the people that I've asked about that show aren't too excited about it and really just don't care. If we're looking at it in a vacuum, I really didn't care if that show happened or not. But now obviously I would rather Gina have her job, and I would have watched the show. The show probably would have been good because it's Jon and Dave doing it, but I just really wasn't too excited about it. And I know most of my friends and most of the people that I talk to around the community felt the same way. So it's not a huge deal that that show's going away, but it is another step to erasing the Filoniverse. And just to be clear, when I talk about the Filoniverse, I'm referring to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni's universe. I'm talking about all the shows that they're creating together. I know it's not just Dave Filoni doing this stuff, but then we have to talk about Mando Season 3, which is really scaring me. First, we have the Gina Carano firing, which isn't too much of a hindrance because she only is in a couple of episodes per season. But for the episodes that she was in, she was very heavily involved. So I'm sure it's no different for the Mandalorian Season 3. I'm sure she was only in 2, 3, maybe even 4 episodes, but I'm sure she was extremely heavily involved in those episodes. So they either have to recast her, which probably isn't going to happen, or they have to replace her with another character, very unlikely as well, or they just have to rewrite those episodes. All of those options are at least going to get the show pushed back, if not canceled. And there are a lot of rumors going around right now that the Mandalorian Season 3 is going to be canceled. That's crazy to think about. And even if it's not canceled, we're not going to get it for another 1.5 to 2 years. That's insane. Why are we getting the Book of Boba Fett instead of Mando Season 3? Why was that the case in the first place? I want the Mandalorian Season 3 now. I don't care about the Book of Boba Fett. I'm sorry. I want to see who gets the Darksaber, who rules Mandalore. I don't care about Boba Fett running Jabba's palace. I just don't. But back to Kathleen Kennedy. I think she's slowly trying to take the power away from Jon and Dave and make them look bad because she knows her job is in jeopardy. And if Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are allowed to run this universe, they're going to succeed in a huge way because they know exactly what the fans want and they know how to get it done. But firing Gina Carano wasn't the only steps that Kathleen Kennedy has taken so far to get rid of the Filoniverse. And it's not the only sign that we have that the Mandalorian Season 3 will be canceled, or at least postponed. We also have the Mandalorian visual books being canceled. That's a huge sign that something is going wrong within the Mandalorian, and something's going wrong between Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Kathleen Kennedy. And it's honestly been suspiciously quiet, because we know something has to happen with the Gina Carano firing for Mando Season 3 and at least Rangers of the New Republic. And it's probably going to affect more shows in the future as well. I think the entire Filoniverse timeline for when those shows are going to come out is going to be pushed back. More on that later. But those books being canceled is a huge tell that things are going horribly wrong. And it's just another step for Kathleen Kennedy trying to get rid of the Filoniverse, get rid of the Mandalorian, because she knows it's going to be more successful than the High Republic. The interest in the High Republic is so low that even Rangers of the New Republic would have done better. And no one cares about that show. At least no one that I talk to. So do I think that the Mandalorian Season 3 will happen? I believe it will happen. But I don't think it's going to be the same Mandalorian that we've been seeing. I think Jon and Dave will have a lot less power than they do now. And I definitely think the show's going to get postponed. Now, we never really knew when the show was going to come out in the first place. So I don't think they'll come out and say that the show's been postponed. They'll probably just come out and announce a release date that's like 2 years away, which is just so sad because the Mandalorian Season 2 ended off on such a high note and it left everyone wanting more immediately. But instead we get the Book of Boba Fett, which is cool and all. I love having the Book of Boba Fett coming, but I don't want it in place of the Mandalorian. I want the Mandalorian Season 3 now. And now we're gonna have to wait another 1.5 to 2 years. I just hate hearing myself even say those words. Why do we have to wait 2 years for the best show in Star Wars? For the show that I care about most out of all of them, except for maybe Kenobi. Because I don't care about Andor, I don't care about Rangers of the New Republic. I care about Ahsoka a little bit, but not as much as Mando Season 3. We have a huge storyline being set up for Mando Season 3, and Kathleen Kennedy is taking it away from us. Because that Season 3 will not be anything like Season 1 or 2, I promise you that. And it might not even happen at all. I wouldn't be surprised if Jon Favreau isn't even involved in Star Wars anymore when Season 3 comes out. So let's get into that now. Reports have been coming out for months and months that Jon Favreau is unhappy at Lucasfilm. And as many of you were, I was pretty skeptical of those reports. Because how could you be unhappy working your dream job? But then the reports came out that he was the only one keeping Gina Carano from being fired. And then I kind of caught on. They're trying to take the Filoniverse away from them. They're trying to take power away from Jon and Dave. And Jon and Dave are having to fight for every single little bit of power that they can. But the bad thing is they don't care about power grabbing. They just want to make good content. So I'm sure after a while it gets really old having to power grab just to keep your actors and actresses on board. They have to power grab because Gina tweeted something that didn't agree with Disney's politics. I would be unhappy too. And keep in mind, this was before she was fired. These reports came out months and months ago. And I don't think he was unhappy at Lucasfilm, but I do think he was getting frustrated. Working under Kathleen Kennedy can't be enjoyable, especially especially when you know more about filmmaking and you know more about Star Wars than her, and she still tries to tell you what to do. Imagine that. And then after all those reports that Jon Favreau is unhappy with Lucasfilm, Jon Favreau is protecting Gina Carano, Gina gets fired. And you have to remember that Jon Favreau was the one that went out and handpicked Gina Carano. He went out and handpicked her to play the character of Cara Dune. He didn't want anyone else, he wanted Gina Carano, and he got her. So you know when someone goes out and handpicks an actress like that, they have big plans for them in the future. So not only was she going to be heavily involved in The Mandalorian going forward, but she was also going to be the main character of Rangers of the New Republic, and I'm sure she was going to be the main character in other shows in the future as well, or at least involved in those shows in some type of way, because you don't go out and handpick an actress like that if you don't have big plans for them. So I'm sure that made Jon Favreau even more mad than he was before. Not only does he have someone who has no idea how to tell stories and has no idea what Star Wars is trying to tell him how to tell stories inside of the Star Wars universe, but now he has a key piece to the Filoniverse taken away from him because she tweeted something that doesn't align with Disney's politics. It's so obvious what's happening here. Kathleen Kennedy doesn't want Jon and Dave in there because they're a threat to her job. And I know she's the one that hired Jon and Dave. I know this. But they weren't a threat when they were originally hired. Kathleen Kennedy didn't know how much the fans would love The Mandalorian. There's no way that she had any idea, because they swore by The Last Jedi before it came out. They really thought that was the next Empire Strikes Back. They really thought that. And I really believed them. And we all know how that turned out. So Kathleen Kennedy has absolutely no idea how to pick what project should be greenlit. There's no way she knew The Mandalorian would be what it was. And now all the fans are calling for Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni to take her job. So of course she feels threatened now. Even Disney shareholders are calling for Jon or Dave to take her job. So what is she gonna do? She's just gonna power grab even more. She knows she can beat Jon and Dave at that game, because Jon and Dave don't want to play that game. They just want to create good content. They're not even active on social media. They don't tweet their politics. They're just off creating greatness. While Kathleen Kennedy is over there playing the politics game. She's power grabbing here and there. She's firing their actors and actresses. She's canceling their books, trying to change certain things inside of their shows, trying to get the Filoniverse canceled. It's right in front of our eyes, but we just don't want to see it because of how horrible this can become. It's sad to say, but she's trying to take away the only thing that can save Star Wars at the moment so that she can push the High Republic more. Let me know what you guys think of Kathleen Kennedy doing all these small things to take away the Filoniverse, because it's the only thing that's really keeping me inside of the Star Wars fandom at this point, because other than the Filoniverse, we really have no hope outside of Kenobi. And honestly, Kenobi's kind of scaring me a little bit too. If you hate Kathleen Kennedy as much as I do, check out the new merch that I just dropped in my store. I think you'll enjoy it. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter or join the Discord, both of those links will be in the description. But other than that, thank you for watching the video and hope to see you on the next one.